Hi, let's talk about the hindgut, the continuation of the midgut. So the midgut ends about 2/3 of the way through the transverse colon, and the hindgut picks up. The hindgut is supplied via the inferior mesenteric artery, or the IMA, and it's going to connect the midgut to the anus. Now the hindgut consists of that distal 1/3 of the transverse colon, the left colic or splenic flexure, the descending colon, the sigmoid colon, and then the rectum into the anal canal. Now it's important to note that the processes of absorption end in the hindgut, and so what was once known as chyme is transformed into feces, which is held and formed by the rectum for elimination through the anal canal and anus. Also in the hindgut, we have the condensation of the tinea coli coming together at that the rectosigmoid junction. So the junction between the sigmoid colon and the rectum. And so the longitudinal smooth musculature then disperses throughout the surface of the rectum. So let's take a look at the cadaveric view of the hindgut. We have the transverse, or the distal portion of the transverse colon, that left splenic flexure, the descending colon. That descending colon is secondarily retroperitoneal, much like the ascending colon was. Then we have our sigmoid colon, and then at our rectosigmoid junction, we have the tinea coli, then going back to the longitudinal musculature surrounding the rectum, and the lumen of the rectum is going to be contiguous with the anal canal. Now when we look at the transition of the anal canal, which is the distal part of the hindgut, with the anus, which is not of the hindgut, there's a sharp division known as the pectinate line. And so this wavy line here is the pectinate line. And anything proximal to that pectinate line is served by a different series of neurovasculature than what is distal to that pectinate line. So proximal to the pectinate line, we have mucosa. That mucosa has elaborations known as anal columns. And in between those anal columns, we have anal canals. That mucosa is served by superior rectal arteries, which are branches of the inferior mesenteric artery. That mucosa is drained by superior rectal veins, which drain into the hepatic portal system. And the lymphatics are going to drain into the internal iliac lymph nodes. In terms of nerves, any nerve branches here are ultimately arising from the inferior hypogastric plexus, which is an autonomic plexus. Below the pectinate line, or the anus, we have a transitional zone, and then it moves into skin. So it's no longer mucosa anymore. And that skin and transitional zone are served by inferior rectal arteries, which are branches of the internal iliac artery, inferior rectal veins, which drain into the inferior vena cava, and the lymphatics drain into the superficial inguinal lymph nodes. In terms of the nerves, this area is served by the inferior rectal nerves.